The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to this year's launch party for version 15 of Envisioneer. I'm excited to see so many people in our webcast, so many familiar names. I wish we could be all in a room together and see each other, but the time is what it is. So we'll be getting started today to show you what's new in version 15. And then from there, you'll receive an email with the recording. So you'll be able to review everything that we've covered today on what's new. Will be followed up with some emails that we'll send to you. So I want to get started right away. I know your time is precious, so I don't want to hold you up too long. So let's get started and look at all of the different new features that we have coming for you in version 15. I'm going to, first of all, let you look at the front yard right now. And here in the front yard, you will see that we have trees. We're going to be investing heavily in putting new trees into Envisioneer, and here are two examples for you. I've got the fall collection coming up. We've got different seasonal trees for you. So these are some seasonal trees. I know we have people from around the world here today, and I want to let everybody know we will have different trees depending on where you are as well. So they're not just going to be North American trees. We'll have trees from all over the world for you to put in your models. So let's step inside and come in and let me show you around version 15. I'm just going to, first of all, come into our ensuite. In the emails that we sent you prior to this launch, we did give you a little hint that we have a new feature, and I'm going to unveil that for you right now. I'm going to click on these two windows. Once I have both of them selected, I just left-clicked on one, held my Shift key, and left-click to select the other. I right-click, and now you'll see the option to create a corner window. When you click on Create a Corner Window, it's going to give you three options. You can weld the window at the glass, at a sash, or put a frame in that corner. So I'll start off with glass. So it puts the window in, merges the two windows together, and we have a glass seam in the corner. If I select that window and right-click and choose Properties, it brings up that same dialog box, so I can change that to a sash. Or if I want to see that, again, right-click Properties as a frame, I can do that. If I just wanted to see that and not sure that that's part of my design, I can right-click and say Break, and then it breaks them apart again. So you can have corner windows coming together in all three different configurations, rifle through the options to see which one best illustrates how you are going to be putting in those windows. And if ultimately your client decides they're not going to put them into the corner, maybe it's a costly upgrade, you can always break them apart, just like I showed you to. I'm going to click on our material paintbrush now. When you evoke the material paintbrush, we now have a new option over here in the catalog panel to the right. If you can't see that part of my screen, perhaps your GoToMeeting console is hiding that. You can always click on what looks like two arrows, and it'll minimize that GoToMeeting console. We don't need it right now. I won't be looking at questions till the very end if we have time. So make sure that you minimize that GoToMeeting screen. Over here in the materials properties now, we have a new option to search. So anytime that you want to search for something, you can do that. So I could say, I want something that's bronze. What are my bronze different finishes that I have? And I can see I've got this brushed bronze. So you don't have to remember what folder they were in. You can just go through and search on a name. Makes it more efficient, especially if you have a lot of materials. If you brought in and imported lots of materials, you want to make sure you can efficiently find that one that you're looking for, especially when you're in a hurry and that design's got to get out the door and you really want to do that presentation nicely. Just do a search. And when you do that search, it'll bring up everything and you can just try those different options, those different folders. Saves a lot of time for searching. I'm going to go now into a 2D view, and I'm going to zoom in on this great room. So here in this great room, I'm going to be inserting some windows. So I'm going to come up to the window command, and I'm going to grab a window, and then I'm going to right click. Now we have an option called insert from base point. We've always had the insertion offset that allows you to offset a distance away from a corner. Insert from base point works along the same premise, but it adds in even more efficiency for you. So I'm going to put my cursor down in this lower left corner, left click, and then I can type in the distance I want that first initial window away from that corner. So I'm going to type in 1 foot and click OK. Then I can left click and place in that window. It automatically pops up again. Okay, do you want another window a set distance away from that same corner? And I'll say, sure, I want one 6 feet away from that same corner. And left click to show it where it goes. Pops up again. I'll say, I want one more. I want it to be 11 feet from that corner. And left click to place it. When I'm done, I just hit done. So I get very quickly 3 windows in there, the distances that I want them, all from that same base point. It's an efficient way to get windows in if you know the dimensions away from a corner, because it pops up that dialog box right away again for you, and it saves you a lot of time. We have that exact same command available for doors and openings. So insert from base point is also for windows, doors, and openings. So it should make you more efficient when you're designing, being able to put those in very quickly like I just did there. I'm going to zoom out and come over here to the side of my model here. And over here, I'm going to insert a concrete pad. So I'm going to go floor by picking points. I'll just choose a 6-inch concrete floor, beef it up a little bit over here. And then I just left click to get started. As I pull over, I'm going to make it 25 feet long. And then watch as I move my cursor down. See how we now can show the angles on the screen? So as you're moving your cursor, it's going to show you right on the screen the angle that you're moving. Again, that's for quick and efficient design. You don't have to look down at the bottom of your screen and say, oh, I'm going in 225 degrees. Right now, you can see those dimensions and the angles coming through. So that should really help you for your on-screen display and showing you very quickly what angle you're pulling in. Now remember, to be able to pull into an angle, you have to have ortho off. I have angle snap on, so it's pulling me in 15-degree increments. But if I turned angle snap off, I could be showing any degrees. So that'll show that very efficiently on the screen for you. So I'm just going to put my ortho back on. I'm going to be pulling straight down. I'll come over down 20 feet. And then I'll come back over and line up with my original spot using our snap track, which has always been there, and hit finish. So there's my concrete slab. I want to put walls on top of that concrete slab. So I'm going to come to the Walls tool and use Walls by Perimeter, another new tool. I go over to my catalog panel, I pick out whatever wall I want to use, and I move my cursor inside that slab. See how it highlights blue? That lets me know that it sees a perimeter and it can build the walls around that perimeter. It can also see the perimeter of walls. So see how it's got the entire shell of my building highlighted? It could put another set of walls around it. Why would you use that? Let's think of those that have basement construction. And you have to fur out that basement to put some insulation in. You're going to put your concrete walls in first, and then you can use this Walls by Perimeter command to put the stud wall inside the perimeter of those concrete walls very quickly and efficiently. Or like I'm doing, for example, today, just around the slab. So if you have something that's slab on grade, put the slab on, use the Walls by Perimeter, left click, and then it wants to know. You've got this line that represents your slab. The walls are going to go in following that line. But does that line represent the outer face of veneer, so the outside edge of my stone, the outside face of my stud, or the inside face of my stud? So you're just telling it what that line represents. If it doesn't represent any three of those, we also have this offset option. So you could offset from the outside face another 1 inch towards the inside. Think of our basement third wall. Maybe you want to be an inch off the concrete when you're putting down your bottom plate for that stud wall. Whatever distance that is, you can use that offset for it. For our slab on grade construction right here and putting the walls on top, I'm going to use outer face of veneer and click OK. And then instantly I get walls going around that perimeter slab for me. Very quick, very efficient. I'm going to put in a couple walls. I'm going to grab the wall tool again, just walls, come over here, grab a garage wall, just place one right there, finish. I'm going to take that wall and I'm going to duplicate it. So I'm going to right click and choose duplicate and then just put it beside the original. Dimensions appear. I'm going to move my cursor over top of that dimension and left click. I want them to be exactly 1 inch apart. So I've got two walls, 1 inch apart. Now I'm going to come up here to settings, program settings, and go to building aids. Here under building aids, we have spanned openings. I'm going to enable the spanned openings. What that allows me to do is when I'm putting in a door, a window, or an opening, it can span across two walls. And all I have to do is tell it, if you see walls within X distance, you should be able to put the door or window in both walls. So I'm going to tell it within 4 inches, any two walls side by side within 4 inches apart, let me put the opening in through both of them. And then I'm going to click OK. Now I'm going to come to the door command. I'm going to grab a door, and I'm just going to zoom in nice and tight here using zoom window. I'm going to put my cursor over top of one of the walls. Whoops, let me just go back up, settings, program settings, building aids, enable, let's say 6 inches here. Make that a little tighter there. Grab my door and place it in. See how it has now allowed it to break both walls? So I have my door placed in the first wall, but it's also cutting the second wall at the same time. So if I move my cursor now to the left, I could tell it that I want the door in this wall, framed in, but cut the opening in the other one. So when you left click, it breaks it instantly between both walls. So if you've ever had a wall where you've got a double wall, maybe a marriage wall, perhaps a double stud wall, and you need an opening to go between both of them, this now does it automatically for you. You don't have to go back and cut it. You can just pull it through. Just make sure you tell it the overall span between those two and how far to look so it knows to cut them between both of them. Okay, zoom out. I'm going to put a roof on. And I'll just tell it's a 12-12 roof over top of here. Nothing new there, but I'm going to pick on one side of the roof, right click, and let's look at its properties. In here on its properties, I'm going to come down here to specify framing. And I'm going to scroll down to the bottom where we have two new options, collar ties and rafter ties. So with both of them, you would just change to include in framing to yes. You would tell it what you're using. So for our collar tie, I'll use a 2x6. The usage, because this is ultimately going to be going into your material report. So we'll have to tell it this board, this 2x6 is going to be a collar tie, and ship it with everything when you're sending out the roof framing elements. So from the top of the ridge, the top of the collar tie is going to be down, let's say 2 feet. Maximum span. So as it goes through and it lays out all the rafters for this roof, do you want the collar ties on every single rafter? If you do, you make this maximum span the same span as your rafter span, 16 inches. If you want it on every other one, you'd make it 3 feet. So I'll say 16 inches to get our 1'4". Rafter ties, I'm going to say yes. I'm going to click a member and tell it this time I want a 2x8. And its use is going to be a rafter Let me rafter tie. And the phase, ship it when you ship everything else that's roof framing. The vertical distance from support. So the support height of the walls to the top of this, I'm going to say is 7.5 inches, excuse me. And the maximum span again, how often do you want to see these? I'll say the same thing, 16 inches. So when I click OK and OK, I'm just going to change that back into, I'm going to change this one into a gable as well, because there's something else I want to show you. I'm going to flip this into a 3D view and zoom around to take a look at that view. I'm just going to zoom in on it here. Let's go to view, framing, display the framing to see those collar ties and rafter ties. I'm going to turn off the visibility of our walls just so we can see the roof a little bit better. So you can see the collar ties and rafter ties coming through. Let me just zoom this so you can see that a little bit better. And I'll put this into a rendered outline view so you can see them coming through there. Our collar ties, our rafter ties. Okay, so we've got those both coming through. If you don't stick frame and you predominantly use trusses, these could be used for your truss supports. So even though they're labeled as collar ties and rafter ties, think of them as truss supports too. They're in the same positioning, so you could label them as truss supports. And you will have the material count for your truss supports shipped with your roof framing if you label them in that phase as well. So even though you're thinking, I do trusses, think of all of the pieces you need and the truss supports you need when they're first putting them up, and put in those extra pieces as well. View, framing, display all but the framing. I'm going to now take this wall, right click and say break, and I'm going to break it right in the middle. So now we've got two separate pieces of wall. I'm going to grab a window. This used to be an I can't put that window in an opening, but now we can slide that window all the way through and have it appear coming through the openings as well. So it doesn't matter if it's slightly over the opening or it's in the middle of the opening, a window can be put in to a wall break. This is, I think, one of my favorite commands. Think of all the times where you change finishes. Maybe it comes to a window and then all of a sudden you're changing it to stucco or a different finish. Or you have two different slopes in a wall and you had to break the wall to achieve both slopes, and then you need a window right there. Now you can put that window in. So this and corner windows to me was two of my favorite commands. I'm going to put this down into 2D. I'm going to go to the ceiling command, ceiling by room. And I will do a 1/2 inch ceiling in here, finish. I'll just place a little camera in there so we can see it. So we can see our ceiling sitting in our garage that we have been building as we went. Select the ceiling, right click, and now I can convert that to a surface. So when I convert it to the surface, that ceiling can change into something else. So if I wanted that ceiling to change into roof sheathing or floor surface, I can change it. So I'm going to change it into 3/4 inch plywood sheathing. So now it's 3/4 inch plywood sheathing. Quick. Select it again now that it's a surface, and I can right click and I can convert it into a structural floor, a floor, or a ceiling. So what we're allowing you to do now is, even though you put something in originally as a floor or a ceiling or just as a generic surface, you can now convert them over to be something else. So in this garage illustration, if I put it in as a ceiling, and then my client comes along and says, you know what, we've decided that we want to have second floor space above that garage. What would happen if you converted that ceiling into a floor? Well, you can say, okay, I'll convert it into a structural floor. I'll change that into a 2x10 with 3/4 inch OSB, and now it's a structural floor. So if I went to view, framing, display the framing, I can see the floor joist coming through there. Okay, so it's a quick way to transition your design from, oh, it was a ceiling, oh, now it's a floor. Just to make it more efficient when you're drawing. So framing, display all but the framing. I'm going to step inside the main house now and go into our great room. When you're doing presentations to a client, you want to make sure that those are as perfect as can be. So when you're navigating around and looking around, you want to make sure that it's got that photorealism to it. When you're in our walkthrough mode here, I can put it into what we call realistic. So it casts down shades and shadows. But to get that really good rendered look to it, you've been able to create your renderings. So all the materials take on their photorealism. You've created panoramic views in the past as well in our previous versions so that you can send those out to your website so you can create your own show homes. You can send them off to a smartphone. But if you're sitting down with a client, and hopefully those days are near to us again soon, when we come into presentation mode, it formally used our realistic view that didn't give you the best realism that it could. So what we've done is we're going to launch presentation mode with baked lighting. You might ask, what is baked lighting? Well, when you have baked lighting, that means that we've pre-baked what every room is going to look like photorealistically. So if you've ever watched your kids play Xbox games or whatever games they play and everything looks so real, it's because they've baked in that scene. They've pre-rendered it so that it has all of that realism built into it. So now we can bake scenes in the homes that you built. So we can tell it that we want to bake lighting the entire interior of your model, this one current room, only the ground floor location. We're just going to be on the outside, just do the exterior, or everything. Give me the interior, give me the exterior. We're going to bake the entire model. And as you go through these, you can see that some of them are going to take longer than others. If I baked the entire model and did the photorealism for every room inside and out, it's going to take a lot longer. But if I just did one room, it wouldn't be as long. And then you can tell it from that point where you are initially standing, where you go from there, your next source of light coming from there. And then you would hit generate GI cache, meaning bake this scene. When you bake this scene, it will remember when you're doing your presentation mode and you're walking through, and it will look photorealistic. So before you go to that important meeting and you want to show someone real time walk through what it's going to look like in that room, in the entire model, inside and out even, you can have a baked light map. So the same type of photorealism that we have with our renderings or that we have with our panoramic views, you can have that and achieve that walking around in presentation mode if you bake the lights beforehand. So before you go to your clients, bake the lights. And then when you're there that day, when you're walking through, it looks photorealistic, it looks lovely, and it has a really high-end presentation to it. Without it, you're walking through in what we call a realistic view. It's nice. It just doesn't have that extra photorealism that you might need for a special presentation. I'm going to take us back outside where we began. Looking at our next different tool, we are on 17 different features I've showed you so far. So hang on, we've got some more. I'm going to right-click here, and I'm going to go to Scene Properties. When you right-click and go to Scene Properties, and this has always been available, you're looking at what does this scene look like? What background am I using? What time of day is it? So that I can cast down the shades and shadows and show you the view. What we've added in for version 15 is more skyboxes. Skyboxes are the image that you see in the background. They could be a single view, but with skyboxes, it wraps the view around you. So every time you turn your head, it's a different view. So we've added in quite a few of them. They'll be down here at the bottom when you first install. And we've got lots of different ones here. For example, a moonlit field skybox. So if I click OK here, it will update and we'll see that moonlit sky in the background, and you can see the lights coming on. So different sky boxes added in, so when you're doing and walking through, it looks even better in your presentations. I'm going to click on this window right here. This window right here is a custom window. I won't have a SKU number for it. It'll be something that is one-off. It's going to be a special order. So for those of you that are using the software for material estimating, this is your SPO. You're never going to see this again. It's a special order SKU. How do we denote that quickly? I'm going to come back up here to the settings pull-down menu and go to program settings. Under program settings, I'm going to go back to building aids. Here under building aids, down at the bottom, you'll see window auto SKU configure. I'm going to click on configure. So in this dialog box that we see here, what we're trying to do is to automatically generate a SKU number for windows that are going to be like a custom window that you don't have a SKU number for. So when it appears on your material list, it's going to come up as what I have here, SPO, window width, dash window height, frame type, dash suffix for order. So you can take these available variables and create any kind of automatic SKU generation that you want. So when it does come up with a window that you want to have as a special order SKU, it will take on this naming convention. The prefix that I put in is SPO. That could be anything. So it could say anything dash do. But if you use the naming convention SPO, it would be SPO. And then the window width, the window height, the frame type, and then for order or whatever suffix you need. So this allows you to customize those special windows that you have and how you want to label them. So if I click OK here and OK, select this window. And once I have it selected, right click to look at its properties. When I'm looking at its properties, I want to go to the quantity tab. Here under the quantity tab, we've got that part number. So if I click on the arrow beside part number, this is new. Now we have auto. So custom allows me to type in whatever part number I have. So for items that I order on a regular basis, I know their SKU numbers, I type that in so it appears correctly on my material list. But for this one-off custom, I want it to automatically generate a SKU number for me. So it comes up with SPO 5-83 for order. So it's looking at back here, it's 5 feet wide, and it's looking at its width, 83 for order. And it automatically creates that SKU number for me. So those of you for using this for ordering purposes, this will be great to get those special order SKUs through for your windows. I'll just click OK there. I'm going to add in my great room, put this back into 2D view, zoom back out here, come into my great room. I'm going to add a column. Right here, it's a long span, we need a column. Right click, finish. I'm going to select that column, right click, and you'll see down at the bottom, open current link. Every item in Envisioneer has the ability to have a hyperlink so that you can automatically go to a website that you want to describe that particular item. So this could be the ordering page where I order that column, or it could be a specification page, whatever you need. It could be, if this was a GE appliance, I could go to the GE appliance page as an example. To access that hyperlink previously, you had to come to the Properties tab. And under the Properties tab, you would click on Open Hyperlinks, or you can manage your hyperlinks. So as long as there is a hyperlink associated to an item, you can now just right-click on that item and go to its hyperlink, wherever it's pointing to. So that's a quick way of accessing those hyperlinks. So for those of you that use the software predominantly for presentation purposes and ordering purposes, and you have an online showroom, this allows you to quickly get those hyperlinks established and go to them when you're meeting one-on-one with a client to show them more information about that appliance, that column, whatever element that you have in your design that you might have a special page for. Okay, out to the next feature. I'm going to come to the front room here and select on this double door. Right-click on this double door. I'm going to look at its properties. Now with a double door, you can have handing for the door. So I can say that both sides are operable, or just the left side is operable, or just the right side is operable. And when I click OK, it will update the drawing to show only the one operable door. So if you've ever used the double doors and you don't want both of them showing, one is just going to be a fixed door, now you can achieve that. And that's been heavily requested, so I'm glad that we got to put that in. There's other features that I want to just mention to you as well. For the file import PDF, been a feature for Building Essentials and Construction Suite for a number of years now. We have rebuilt the entire PDF engine. By updating the engine, it makes sure that we can handle all the different imports that are out there, even the newest ones. The old engine didn't handle newer PDFs as well. This new rebuilt engine will allow you to import those PDFs even better. When you export your model and you're sending it out as a 3D model, you have new options. You can send it out as an FBX file or an OBJ file. Some of you might think, okay, whatever. But for those of you that are using different rendering engines, or you're needing to share the model with other people, this gives you another opportunity to be able to share. So you can integrate the model into other programs as well. While we were incorporating FBX and OBJ export opportunities, we also worked on our IFCs. So we have enhanced the IFC import and export as well. So for those of you that are importing IFCs or exporting as an IFC file, it's been enhanced, and there's more features available for that as well. Another option that was updated and upgraded was importing site data. I'm on a different computer today. I can't show you an imported file, but when you import the site data previously, that site data would be built upon top of the level that you had. Now it works hand in hand. So when you bring in that site data, it's going to look at the elevation that you have, and it's going to automatically come into settings, document settings under terrain, and it's going to change this grade level for you. So it's not going to build the site up over top of it. It's going to create it with this level and change them for you. So that's a great enhancement for those of you that have to work and are very concerned about elevations and sea level and where the model is actually residing. By importing the site data, now it'll allow you to incorporate it better into your model as well. So I just want to kind of reiterate some of the different commands that I went over today. We went over quite a few. So first thing that I showed you as we first started today's webinar was the trees. We're investing a lot of time into bringing in better looking trees. The email that I send out afterwards, I've done a rendering with these trees situated here, and the shadow lines that come through them are wonderful. Because they're fractional tree leaves, you see each one, it gives a really nice shadow look when you do your final renderings. So new trees, better trees, good 3D trees for you to use. Again, we'll have seasonal trees. So right now I'm showing you part of the autumn collection, but there'll also be a summer collection and trees from around the world as well, because we do ship around the world in 4 different languages. Second thing that I showed you, we slipped inside the house and we looked at the windows and creating that corner window. So by selecting the 2 windows we can right click now and create a nice corner window, just effortlessly there. We also talked about the changes to the material paintbrush. That was number 3 on our list. Now we can search for new items so we can be efficient. We can find those materials that we need very quickly. We don't have to rifle through a whole bunch of folders and trying to remember where we placed it. Search for it and you've got it quickly. Number 4 in our journey is we went into the great room, and this was 4, 5, and 6. We can insert now windows, doors, and openings, either one by a base point. Pick one point, boom, 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 insert multiple windows along that same wall from that base point, and all you have to do is type in the distance between from the original base point to the next one, from the original base point to the next. Very quick, very efficient tool. And with that in mind as well, number 7 would be walls by base point as well. So you can have walls from a base point, all from the same base point, coming from that as well. And you can also, number 8, lock that base point too. Then we went outside. And while we were outside, number 9, I think we're up to, I drew the slab. And when I drew the slab, if you remember way back, as I was moving my cursor, if I had it on angle snap here, we could see the angles being recorded on the screen. So that'll save you some time having to look down. Number 10, we put in two walls and we put an opening that spanned between them. Number 11, we put in a roof, and on the roof we had rafter ties, and number 12, collar ties into the model as well. We then put in a ceiling into the garage. For number 13, we changed it to a surface. For number 14, we changed it to a floor. Number 15, you could actually change that back into another type of surface or a structural floor. Then we went into our great room, and when we were in the great room, we talked about baked lighting. And now you can have the same type of quality when you're in presentation mode that you have when you're creating a photorealistic rendering and when you're doing our panoramic views as well. In the same type of thought, we went outside and changed the skybox. The skybox is the background view. We've added more skybox. And then we looked at a window and looking at the properties of the window. We looked at the quantity tab, and now we can change it to an automatic way of generating those part numbers so that you can get your special order SKUs very quickly. We looked at the, in 2D, we looked at the column. The column was representative of the fact that I can do a hyperlink. You can automatically open up a hyperlink. Then we skip down for the next tool to our double doors to talk about handing the door. Looking at its properties, we can have it left, right, or both operable. And then we talked about the terrain mesh, the import PDF, the enhanced IFC import-export, and the ability to export FBX and OBJs. All of these different commands that I was able to show you today all help with your productivity and your presentation. So when you've got jobs that have to be out very quickly, those new efficiency tools will help you get them out. And when you're doing those presentations and now you can bake the lighting or put in a nicer skybox, those will help you with your presentations as well. So I hope you enjoyed looking at all of the new features that we've created for you for version 15. Following today's webcast, I am going to be converting this presentation recording into a YouTube video that we'll put up on our website. And we'll send you an email that has a link to it so you can watch them again. I have also created a version 15 web page. And on that page, what I've done is created little videos of each of the different features. I want you to learn how to use these tools so you can incorporate them into your daily work. So these short little snippets of videos will help to see how to use it and why you would want to use it as well. So I'll send you a link to that page as well so that you can learn about all of these new features by just watching those short little videos that I created for you. I want to thank everybody for coming out to today's webcast. I know your time is valuable and I appreciate it. It's so good to see so many of you from all over the world, actually, joining us today. It's great to see so many familiar names in our webcast. I wish I could see you all in person again, and hopefully we can soon. I want to thank all of you for joining us, and I hope you have a fantastic day. Thanks, everybody, and goodbye.